Hello and welcome to True Audio Files. So today I'm going to be talking about the Green Day release that just came out, the One Step, and I wanted to compare it to another version of the record that I already have. I also wanted to kind of at least touch on a subject if it may seem a little weird to you. I'm going to be probably looking at two different cameras at the same time because I'm experimenting with a new way to record my podcasts or video, my YouTube channel, I should say. And I wanted to see which one is going to perform better for me and see which one I like better. So you'll have to bear with me. I apologize if the video seems a little weird because of that, but I will be going back and forth between the two and seeing which one I like better. So anyways, so today I am going to be talking about the Green Day American Idiot album. It just got a release as a one-step, which is right here, made by Rhino. It was cut by Levi Seltz at Black Belt Mastering, and I'm hoping I pronounce his name properly. But he does a lot of vinyl mastering, not the ones that you typically see are listed as audiophile per se, but he does do a lot of them. So basically, he did this one. I have number 1732 out of the 3,000 that they've produced for here. This is very similar packaging to what you've been seeing more recently by a lot of these companies. There's really, quite honestly, I do and I don't like the packaging. One thing I have to say, though, is there's really nothing more to this one-step packaging than just the outer container here, because basically the inside is nearly identical. Well, actually, it is a little bit different. I mean, the packaging is the same, but the front cover is different, which is odd. But anyways, basically, you have a gatefold. It does have the thicker style gatefold jacket on it, and it is a little bit different in terms of that. Now, to give you a sense, I mean, the one that I'm going to be comparing this to, I should say kind of all over the place here, I apologize, is the Record Store Day first release from back in 2015 that they did for Record Store Day. But as you can see, the covers are different. This is the One Step and this is the Record Store Day. And they kind of zoomed in and made the Green Day American Idiot fonts much larger. So I'm not really sure what the reasoning was behind that. But anyway, so it is slightly different. The back, kind of the same way. They've made the graphics larger. The text looks to be pretty nearly identical, though. But anyways, very similar beyond that. Because this one, which is the Record Store Day one, it has some pretty good, it's maybe not quite as thick, but still pretty thick stock record jacket. And again, it's got the gatefold. This one actually also has different colored LPs, which I'll let you see. It's kind of a semi-transparent red smoke color, I think they called it, on the first record. And then on the second record, it's basically a gray splatter, gray and black splatter with a gray, white, and black splatter, or whatever you want to call it. But anyways, it's a splatter nonetheless. And with the One Step, they actually use the same formula for the vinyl that MoFi uses. So it's basically that super vinyl that they call it. And so it's if you hold it up to the light, you can see that it's actually semi-transparent. So, and these ones are pressed at RTI as opposed to, which was what the original One Steps were pressed at. Now they're pressed at Fidelity Pressing, Mobile Fidelity's pressing plant. So anyways, so they did a lot of the same things that MoFi used to do with theirs in terms of pressing it on the better vinyl, and it's a one-step process. They are cut from high-resolution digital files. The information on the packaging states that it was originally digitally recorded, and then they mixed it down to tape, actually, and then they digitized that tape into high-resolution audio, so it's like 24:192 files. And they took those files and cut the records from them. So that's basically the backstory of the One Step. And I am pretty sure that the information that I got on this, I'm not 100% certain of, but I'm pretty sure that they probably used those same files to cut these records, I should say. And the information I got from Discogs, which I wasn't sure about, is said that it was half speed mastered by Stan Ricker. And if you don't know who Stan Ricker is, he actually used to cut all the Mobile Fidelity stuff, and it supposedly was half speed mastered like all of the Mobile Fidelity stuff used to be. So both are kind of mimic what Mobile Fidelity used to do or has done in the past, and to try to recreate these records. So how do they sound? So what I did, and what I'll kind of go through the process very briefly here, just for those of you who don't know, I generally listen to the new release all the way through at least once, and then try to determine what song or songs are going to be the best ones to kind of do an A/B comparison between them to see which one to get that's going to give me the best indication of how they're going to compare. So I kept it pretty simple because I don't know if it really was going to make a dramatic difference in any which way I went. So I went with American Idiot, the first song on the album. And, I played the one step I think sounds spectacular. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing, though. The other thing about the one step is it is 33 1/3. They may have been able to do 45, but I know one side was over 17 minutes long, where all the rest of them were like 12 to maybe 14 or 15 minutes long. So maybe they could have done a one step 45 RPM, but they stuck to 33. I think it's probably the right choice on this one. So, but anyways, I played it through. First thing I definitely noticed right away is it was super, super quiet. The pressing was very quiet. Even at a louder level, that surface noise was nearly inaudible. And then, the recording itself, I'm really a big fan of the mix and the sound quality of it. And, the one step didn't disappoint in that sense as well. Great bass, great powerful bass. Not too much, just enough to give you that extra oomph, especially when the bass drum hits. And, good high end as well, good clarity in the vocals. And overall, I thought it was just really, really good, decent sound stage. The guitars kind of were separated by the rest of the instruments and vocals. And overall, I thought it sounded very good. Then I put on the Record Store Day reissue from 2015. And I have to say that from an EQ standpoint, sound stage standpoint, mostly, just overall, it was nearly identical. And it was very, very hard for me to try to nitpick to find differences between the two. But I think there's a very subtle difference in the high end and in the clarity in the high end, most specifically, and also to a lesser extent, so it's super subtle, maybe in the sound stage a little bit, like a little bit more air between the instruments, but ever so slight. I think unless you had a really, really, really high-end system that's set up really well, I think you'd have a hard time hearing that. But the one thing that I noticed it on the most in this, which is usually the case for me when I'm doing these types of things and noticing a clarity difference, is on the cymbals. And I think this goes to the one-step process more than anything, because it definitely sounded like, a little bit of a veil was lifted. It just sounded more like cymbals and just a better clarity to those cymbals than on the Record Store Day version. But again, it's super subtle, and you really have to do A/B-ing very closely back and forth. So there's not going to be a huge difference between them from a sound quality perspective. Surface noise aspect of it, the Record Store Day one's pretty good for a traditional, if you will, pressing. It still had more though than this super vinyl, but not a lot more. It was most noticeable in between tracks, so not really all that noticeable during the tracks themselves. So I think it's one of those things that, I think that the one step is definitely going to be the better album version. Whether it's worth a lot more than the regular version, I don't know if that's true. Now, I will say that the Record Store Day version is going for pretty decent bucks now, because I think it was a limited run of 5,000. And I want to say that, I looked on Discogs and the median price range for it was like 75-ish dollars, which is still cheaper than the one step, which I think is still available. But I do believe they reissued this later after that Record Store Day release. So I have to assume, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that the regular release of this is probably still available, even though there is a 20th anniversary edition that has come out. You could probably still easily find the either the Record Store Day version or the version that came out that's the same pressing, just probably not on the same color vinyl, limited to 5,000. So bottom line here is there's very, very little difference between the two. And I think unless you've got a really good system, and most importantly, a system set up really well and properly, and you're sitting in the sweet spot and really paying close attention, I think you're going to have a hard time hearing a difference between the two. So is it better? Yes. And I guess if you're an audiophile and that's what you're looking to achieve, then I would say that that's probably the one you want to go with if you're wanting the vinyl. I honestly felt that, the digital files themselves definitely, were closer in sound quality to the one step. I don't know if I could really notice much of a difference between them besides, I'm listening to the record through my analog setup and listening through to the high res file through my digital setup. I think they're pretty similar beyond that. So I guess that's my take. I would say that, if you're a huge Green Day fan, a huge American Idiot fan, you probably want to pick this copy up, especially if you don't have a copy of this. But if you're a big fan of Green Day and a big fan of American Idiot, you probably already have a copy, other than the one step. So, but I do think that it's definitely better, whether it's, $75 or $100 better. that's a choice you're going to have to make, I guess. So that's kind of my take, though. So, I will say also that because both are 2 LP sets, the track listings are exactly the same on each side. So it's not like you're flipping this one step more. So that's not a detraction, in my opinion, when it comes to the one step. So, but if you hate surface noise and you want just that little bit of edge in the clarity, I would say the one step's the one for you. Otherwise, I think you'd be very happy with the other versions that are out there on the market. So that's everything I have for this episode. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I want you guys to have a great rest of your day and a great rest of the week. Thanks a lot.